Hello, IT enthusiasts. Welcome to another episode of My Computer Careers Get Into IT Live, where we do just that. We get into all things IT. Today is especially fun because we are joined by Whitney from RecruitMilitary, and I'm going to give a proper introduction here in just a minute, Whitney. But Whitney is here, as you may have seen in the title, to talk about helping you service members, active and retired service members, get that job. And you're going to hear why Whitney is the perfect person to talk to help us do just that. So before we get started, just a little bit of intro. We obviously want to thank you for joining us today and joining us on your Friday at the end of the week. We know you're busy. We know you're looking to head into the weekend, especially if you're in North Carolina, because it's beautiful around here right now after some storms yesterday. So we appreciate you joining us at noon on your Friday lunch hours.
Oh, thanks for having me.
What's that?
Thanks for having me on. And everybody else here. Hey, everybody. Welcome in.
Very nice to have you, Whitney. No doubt about it. So Whitney is to give that the proper intro, Whitney Ortiz from RecruitMilitary. She's a DoD training and development manager at RecruitMilitary. And she's a certified professional resume writer. There's more. Just wait. She's a former career transition facilitator and Army spouse. At RecruitMilitary, Whitney hosts a live webinar series covering topics like resume writing and advanced employment for the military community. She also helps with RecruitMilitary virtual job fairs and presentations for military installations. So Whitney does a lot. And Whitney certainly understands how to help folks get jobs. So I really can't wait to dive into it because Whitney, it's one of our most popular subjects. And last year, when we really dug into the resume, that was our number one performing broadcast. So I think these things coming together are kind of what folks are looking for. So all of that said, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thanks for having me. It's a great day down south in the South Carolina area. I'm very happy to be here on a Friday, and I always like to be punny with my days of the week. So it's a fantastic Friday or a fabulous Friday for me. A great way to end the week.
Amen. No doubt about it. And Whitney's somehow very positive, even though she's in the process of a cross-country move. And I asked her what she was doing this weekend, and it involves moving. So she is not having as much fun as the rest of us and still very happy. Look at this. Very nice.
It's all in how you spin it, you know? Same with resumes. It's all in how you spin the story.
Exactly right. Why don't we get into that?
Sure.
All right. As always, folks, the comment section is wide open. Patricia is with us and doing her thing and monitoring all of those comments. So if you have any questions for Whitney as we go through this, please feel free to drop them in and we will share. And I'm sure she'll be happy to answer those for you. So just to peel the curtain back a little bit as we get started. Yeah, we create an editorial calendar around these things. Believe it or not, planning does go into this. And our editorial calendar this week was, I believe, looking at it, military veteran, which led us directly to thinking of the folks from RecruitMilitary because they're so actively involved in something that's important for veteran students and grads, and that's helping them transition to successful careers. So with that intro, thank you again for joining us. And if you don't mind, why don't you tell folks who are watching a little bit about RecruitMilitary and the ways you folks support active duty and retired service members?
I definitely can do that. To sum it up, RecruitMilitary is the leader in connecting employers with that military community. A team of experts, we provide tailored civilian career opportunities to transitioning service members, veterans, military spouses, and their dependents. Our primary programs include one-on-one customized career placement, more than 100 military-centric career fairs and networking events each year. These happen nationwide and virtually, as well as the nation's largest sole-purpose military job board. To kind of sum that up, employers in the military community choose to connect through RecruitMilitary for these things that we do offer here. And it's open to service members, veterans, spouses, and their dependents too. Anybody in that military family can utilize these resources.
So an apt name for sure, and you all definitely live up to it. And I can tell you from experience, from working with you over the years, they definitely do a lot of great work. So, all right, why don't we hit a few stats that we've discussed here before? since we're talking about a pretty special community of folks. There are 200,000 service members that transition to civilian life each year. Many of those people are entering the workforce with 15 years of training and experience under their belts, and some have security clearances, which can take 18 months to obtain. All of this isn't new to you. Some of this may have come from your website even. So we are in the world of IT training. And so something we discuss fairly often, Whitney, is how perfectly the skills and the discipline learned in the military translate into careers in IT. Do you agree with that? And if so, what are some of those skills that translate?
100% agree with that. Most people who are in the military, I would gather say everybody, you're going to have those transferable skills. The issue comes where people don't always see what they're bringing to the table. So peeling back that curtain a little bit and thinking more from that soft skills angle. So if you're going into IT, what are some things that people in IT have? Education and training aside, what do you have to be successful in IT? You know, the ability to work with teammates, but also the ability to work independently. That's essential. You need to be able to be trained, which if you're in the military, you've had extensive training. You know how to get the job done. You know how to go in and do your training and then show results afterwards. Research sometimes, looking at leadership ability. So picking these different pieces out that you're already bringing to that next job and showing people in the IT field why that's important. So saying, hey, you're looking for an IT project manager. Well, I'm coming to you with 10 years of management experience. Here's what I've done. Here are my examples. So take it from that soft skills angle, because we can educate, you can be trained, but you can't teach somebody how to be a good leader. That's an internal thing that they're going to be a good leader or they're not going to be a good leader.
Right. So, leadership, teamwork, discipline, all of those things that you just hit on. I mean, it's pretty uncanny how it translates over to a career in IT, of course, but a career just about anywhere. I mean,
definitely. What's the story? You got to tell it from that angle.
Right. Okay. So, skills training, we talk about it a lot. Gaining skills directly related to the career you want is I think, it's more important than ever right now. There's even an initiative at the federal level to hire cybersecurity positions based on skills rather than a 4-year degree, which is something, of course, I think, a lot of people are excited about. I mean, we're talking about 70 million potential folks that don't have degrees, but do have skills. There are skills warriors. So if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit, as you're working with transitioning service members to find careers, are there training or educational routes that RecruitMilitary suggests that they explore?
So we offer 100 plus job fairs that happen, networking events. And at these events, we typically have educators there. We have some credentialing opportunities, and we encourage those to just go and, see what's out there, talk to some different institutions or programs, explore these different opportunities, some that you may not have been exposed to prior. See where that's going to take you. We also have a mentorship partner with Still Serving Veterans. And we work with you on that one-to-one basis to see what do you need from us and how can we assist? How can we warm handshake you to some of our partners? And how can we bridge that connection for you?
Okay, so not only does your RecruitMilitary have some great options, and we always encourage folks, and I'm sure you do too, to go explore whatever pathway works best for you, whether that's a 4-year college experience, a community college, skills training, boot camp, working with folks like RecruitMilitary to find all the right avenues to get that career. It certainly isn't one size fits all, and there's a lot of great options for a lot of people.
Most definitely. It almost never is one size fits all for anything that's going on.
Yeah.
Find what works for you, go down that pathway.
Yeah, exactly right. Well said. I'd just like to pause for a second to say how impressed I am with the fact that Instagram is working, Patricia. It worked from the very beginning. Instagram never works on this channel. So that's a very good thing to say. A little interruption. We'll get back to our regular.
Fantastic Friday.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right. So we've established the fact that service members are an excellent group to help fill the skills gap in IT. We've touched on the paths that folks might take to gain some of that skills and knowledge with your help, obviously. Why don't we tap into the professional resume writer background part of your skills here? So I'll first ask the big question, and I know it's not that easy, Whitney. What's the number one tip you have for somebody as they sit down to craft a resume?
Oh, you're right. That's not that easy because there are so many tips. But if I had to like try to sum it up
Yep.
into one concise tip, what I would say is know your audience and target your materials to that. And that means there's a lot of things that can come out of that too, but who are you talking to? What are they looking for? Key thing to writing that resume and optimizing the success rate of that document.
Okay. All right. So that's a great starting point. We have some I have some rapid fire questions here we're going to go through.
Bring it
So if
on.
you don't mind, this is one that's actually not on the list, but I wanted to ask, is the ATS real and should people be concerned about it?
Is it real? Yes, but it's also hard to say, there's not a one size fits all ATS because there are like 100 plus commonly used ATS systems. There's also AI, which isn't ATS, and that's company built. So a lot of things that are happening in the space of going through resumes and sourcing those candidates. What I will say is, as long as you're going off of that job description, so you're using those keywords, you're really showing how you fit that need. Again, the job description is that need that that company has. How are you the solution to that? As long as you're highlighting that, no matter if it's an ATS, if it's AI, if it's just people who are reviewing your resume, you're going to get through and you're going to have somebody looking at that document. Whether you get to the interview or not, what story have you told in your document? Have you given those examples? But you shouldn't worry about not getting through a system if you're showing that you fit this need.
And for folks who don't know, what is an ATS?
It's an applicant tracking system, and it's some people love to hate it, some people love it, some people are like, oh no, it's the worst thing out there. It can, as long as you're matching keywords up and you're just doing your due diligence, nothing to sweat about.
It's like anything else, right, Whitney? If your content's good, you'll get through.
Exactly. Just
Okay.
know what you're talking about and know what you're applying for.
All right. Rapid fire. Do we need an objective?
Ew, depends. An objective is typically better used if you're going into a school program, a training program, skill bridge, CSP, internships. But if you don't fit into one of those categories, instead of an objective, we typically use a headline, which is a little bit more short, a little shorter and a little bit more concise. Whew, my words today on a Friday.
Me too. Yeah. Okay. What about contact information?
Yes, but what contact information do we have on there? I should see a phone number. I should see maybe your LinkedIn with a custom URL. Don't have to see that though. I should see an email address, but what email address are you using? What can I capture about you from what you've told me there? And please don't put an address. That is very much 2010. Unfortunately, we don't do that anymore on that, private sector civilian resume. Federal's a little bit different. City and state will suffice, or if you're looking for remote work, you can just kick that right off and just have phone number, email address, maybe your LinkedIn.
I think that's an excellent call out about the email address. Make sure that,
Ooh, yeah.
sorry to say it, folks, but don't use Hotmail or Yahoo, and make sure that
No.
whatever your name is matches up and is
What numbers are in your email address? I
Right.
read a lot of email addresses because I send out our reminders for our webinars.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people they'll put the year they were born in their email line. So it'll be first name, last name, and the number, 86.
Yeah.
Well, if I see that, oh, you're born in 1986. Should I know that information about you? Don't give me that knowledge for free.
Interesting. I have to talk to my wife because that's what she does. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. All right. So we don't put an address, and we certainly don't put a photo, by the way, folks, right? No headshots.
No, please no.
Yes. All right. How important is the profile or about me section? Is it even needed?
It is incredibly important. So what I hear a lot is people don't think that it's important by those who are working on their resumes are like, oh, I don't see why this is needed. But from the recruiter angle, it is essential because this is essentially your highlight reel, in a brief couple sentences or a couple bullet points. Why are you the person for this job? And that's what you're answering. And I want to see that and say, okay, I want to know more about you. Let me finish that resume. Let me read through it a bit more. So you're capturing my attention. And we talked about that ATS briefly. This is the land of the keywords right here. Think about, pepperonis on a pepperoni pizza. You don't want just one piece of pepperoni on it. You want 7 or 8 pieces. Same thing with keywords in this section. Keyword central.
It's a great analogy. I love it. Fantastic.
Almost lunchtime. Thinking about pizza right now.
Take nothing else away, folks. Pepperonis. Remember that. Pepperoni pizza. I love it.
The more the better.
And also you touched on, the ideal length too, making sure that you keep it brief, brevity, brevity, brevity. Find a way to tighten everything. I love that. Does font matter?
Yes. Times New Roman, as much as I love Times New Roman personally, it could potentially date you because that's not used anymore. And if you're like, Whitney, why? Times New Roman's more of a print font versus a computer screen font. We're looking for the sans serif font. So Calibri, Verdana, Arial, pretty much what the default is on Docs or Word or Sheets. Any of those systems, the default font, good to go.
What about margins? What about format, PDF, Word? Does any of that matter?
All the specifics. I love this. So margins, 1 inch is your maximum, but if you need a little bit more space, we can bring that in. 0.75 or 0.5. Do not go more than 0.5 because white space is important. I do want to see it's not, squished all the way to the sidebar. So 1/2 inch to 1 inch, but make sure it's the same margin on all your documents. I have seen a couple resumes where they change the margins on different pages. Please don't do that. Format wise, a lot of times if we're uploading it, I say a lot because do read the job description. They may specify a certain file type. But if it's not specified, a .docx is the best format for uploads. A PDF if you're emailing it to a person. Don't email a .docx unless you want resume review. That's a little bit different because you want them to make comments and notes on it. But if you're sending it to an individual to be considered, send a .pdf because that is that more professional look.
Interesting. I always thought that a PDF was one of those things, and here I am, not knowing. It gets picked up by the ATS and doesn't get pushed through for one reason or another.
It's trickier than ATS. There are some that will read PDFs, but to ensure your information gets read the most thoroughly, a .docx is the best thing you could do, just to maximum compatibility.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I love it. Tailoring your resume. You already touched on it. For those who don't know, why is that important?
Well, what do I need? What am I looking for? That job posting or job description, you'll hear it called both. It's the same thing. That is the need that company has. That's the gap that they have in their workforce, and you are the solution. So how do you show them that you fit that gap? Why are you their Band-Aid for that role? So we want to make sure we're highlighting how we fit that experience, how we fit those responsibilities, how we fit their requirements, because again, that's what they're searching for, and you are that person. So we want to have that right here, your resume right here, kind of like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. We're putting them together. Really more food analogies.
Yeah, definitely hungry. All right, that's good though. So talking about tailoring your resume, are we doing that for every single gig we apply for?
In an ideal world, yes. But if you're like, I don't have that much time, well, how badly do you want the job? If you want that job really badly, I would encourage you to tailor it. If you have the time, do tailor it. But if you're short on time, go over to that summary section, that professional profile. That's the one that every single time you want to make those adjustments because, again, you're hitting those keywords in that job description. Yeah. So if you're short on time, give yourself 10 minutes, update that professional profile section. You're good to go. But if you're going to a hiring event or a job fair, what are you looking to do? What type of IT role are you wanting or cybersecurity role? And then make a resume from that angle. I like to say, think about a dartboard. What's your bullseye? And that's going to be based off, why do you need that document at a job fair? I want to be an IT project manager. That's the bullseye. That's my document. Versus job postings, new bullseyes.
Never even thought of the job fair. I mean, of course you do, because that's a big part of what you do. That's a great point because you are going to be submitting your resume potentially to a bunch of employers.
Yeah, so and you should know what you want to do. I hope at least I have an idea of what type of job you're trying to get. So make that document reflect that.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so it comes back to effort, by the way, folks. What I'm hearing is tailor your resume, find time to do it, but it's not as ideal if you don't, if to summarize. Okay, all right. How far back should we go in our work history?
That's a great question. It's going to depend on what do I need to know. And again, think back that first tip I gave, who's your audience and what do they need to know? For some people, that may only be 5 years. For some, it may be 10. I probably won't see things 20 years ago because, if it happened in 2004, there were a lot of things different in 2004. It was a whole different world 20 years ago. So I would want to see more examples from your recent history to show that significance. So even if we have significant experience on that 1 or 2 page document, chances are we're only going back 10 years, maybe 15, but more importance on the recent things and giving those examples.
Okay. All right. Interest awards. Yes, no.
Oh, it's going to depend. So, awards, why did you receive that award? What is the value in that? As an employer, can I see why that's a great accomplishment in that area? Maybe a niche award may not translate over, but an award for running a project well is going to transfer over right away. But give that to me as a bullet point. Awarded what? For doing what? When did you get that award? Same with the honors and recognition. Interest, it's going to depend. Is that interest something that's relevant in the field you're going to? If one of your hobbies is going in and learning computer languages or coding or doing some of these things, is that important? Most definitely, if you're looking to do something similar. So incorporate that in. And a lot of times you can weave that into that professional summary to go ahead and show that desire that you have in that career field through things that you have done in your free time. But if it's not relevant, I don't know if I need to know that
I
necessarily.
love the theme here, Whitney, that you're sharing. Everything, it sounds obvious, but everything goes back to what you're trying to accomplish. And
That's the
if it
bullseye.
doesn't apply, then of course it doesn't apply. Fantastic. What about a cover letter? Nobody wants to write a cover
Ooh.
letter.
Again, it's so hard to be specific because maybe not. If you have the time, and this is where, if we do have the time, you can maximize your success rate by creating a cover letter. And this is your way to convey what you're bringing over. And it's a bit more personal than a resume. A resume is like the book version of you. It's very black and white, very textbook. Here's what I did, here's my result. But in this cover letter, we can kind of show a personality here. We can show why we're interested in this career field. We can kind of draw that relationship over from what we've done in the military and how and why that's significant into this next area. So if we have the time, I would encourage you to make this document because it just gives that employer that chance to really see what you're trying to tell them, and it gives you more space to show that information. But we don't have time. It's not a requirement most time. Do read the job description just to make sure it's not a requirement. So don't worry about it if you don't have to write one. If you have time, go for it.
Got it. Good. And obviously, that's going to depend on, I would guess, the hiring manager. As a PR guy, if somebody's applying to a job that we've posted, I want to see a cover letter because I want to see how you write, and shows just a little bit more effort. So that's good to know. Speaking of resumes, my resume is 4 pages. What do you think about that?
Oof. I'm going to think in about 30 seconds when I'm going to decide who I'm going to put into a yay pile to look for interviews. If I can see the important things on page 1 or page 2, probably a yay, but I may be a little dissuaded by the length of that. But I'm not going to necessarily say no because it's a 4-page resume. I'm still going to give it some, read through, but
Sure.
Can I see the key information on the first page? That's going to really take a yes or a no.
So I guess I bring that up also to ask, is there an ideal length? I mean, everybody always asks that. I'm 4 pages, I'm 1 page, I'm 2 pages. Is there an ideal length that you look for?
A 1-page or a 2-page is preferred because,
Right.
that snippet of what's relevant, because your resume, it's not there to show everything you've done. It's just that highlight based off that job description and how you fit that need. So not everything you've done will fit that need. So trim it up accordingly. And by the time we do some trimming around, a 1 or 2 pager. Now, where I want to make sure you press the most importance on is that first half of page 1, because that's what's going to get read the most thoroughly. So I should see that you are the person for the job in that first 50% of page 1. And if you want a cool little exercise, just fold your resume in half, read the first half of it. Would you hire yourself for that job?
Love it. Very nice. Okay. That was a fun little rapid fire. Let's slow things down just a little bit for this audience, especially because I want to make sure I call this, I call attention to this. So back to work history. There are many people in our audience who are going to submit a resume that may have little to no employment experience in IT or otherwise. How do active duty and retired service members navigate this to effectively highlight their skills and background in the position? So the question is, that's a lot of words to say. If you don't have experience, how do you position that on your resume?
Love this question. Also, because I get a ton of individuals from the military. For those who know MOSs, my 11 Bravos, my infantrymen, a lot of them from Fort Liberty come my way, and a lot of them are looking for careers in IT. So I deal with this on almost a regular basis every day. And what I always recommend them and what I recommend you to do is, instead of thinking from your job title, so maybe you were a mechanic, or maybe you've just done some volunteer work, but it wasn't in the computer field, it wasn't in an IT field. Instead of thinking from the job title approach, back to what we talked about earlier, those are bringing over, tell me that first. Because if I see mechanic for an IT job, I may not make that translation of, oh, that's a great fit for here. I'm going to say, well, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm seeing that. Tell me instead those skill pieces. So maybe start off with training ability or adaptability, leadership, one of these key areas, and then give me some bullet points off of that. So if you're going for that leadership role within an IT field, well, when did you have to lead people before? How many people? What did you do? Were there issues on your team? Because a good leader should have resolutions of issues. So I would want to see that in your resume. I can train you to do IT. You can get IT credentials. You may currently be enrolled in some IT programs, but I can't train you how to lead well. I can't train you to be good at being trained. I can't train you to do some of these soft skill pieces, which are incredibly essential. So just think from the skills angle as you create your content, not necessarily the job title angle. You'll still have the job titles. It will just come after the skills under work history, company, job, dates.
So important. I'm so glad you were able to add that to this discussion, Whitney. And I think that perspective is important for so many folks to hear. Go find the skills that apply. You're more experienced than you might think.
Significantly more experienced. A lot of people undersell their skills, which you should be overselling them. That's what they want to see, is how you've done these things before.
Fantastic. Common mistakes. Are there common mistakes that you see? I should have put this back up in the rapid fire, but are there common mistakes?
One of the biggest things I see is people forget to tell me why that's important. So we talk a lot about bullet points because that's the driving force in what you've done. Here's the action, here's the result, but a lot of times they forget the so what. They may tell me, oh, I trained people before. So what? What happened because of the trainings? Can you walk me through that? Oh, well, I did this training for this one program. So what? Again, walk me through, make that a full circle. They forget to do that sometimes. And it's really hard to see that value added if you don't tell me what that value added is. I'm not going to make those assumptions. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see. The other one is not providing metrics. Quantify things where we can. A lot of times we use words in the military community that may not translate outside of that, but numbers always translate. Give me the numbers and I can translate that to whatever my company calls it over here.
Remember the so what, everyone. So what?
Yep. Great. Read your bullet point. Ask yourself that question. Do you have the answer there?
So I have one more question. What did I miss? Was there anything from a resume standpoint that we didn't cover that you just want to throw out there? And it's okay if the answer is no.
That's a loaded question. I don't know. Yeah. That's a good question. I guess what I will say, for those who are looking to go federal, because we did touch on the federal piece and how they're looking at experience and not just education. Please make sure you've covered all of the information asked in that federal job description, which means your resume will probably be longer than 2 pages, and that is A-okay. Show that information. It could be a 3-pager, could be a 5-pager. Trust the process, pull that information, show those examples.
Whitney, I so much appreciate you sharing your knowledge, for a lot of reasons, but mainly because you're very knowledgeable. And the information that you just provided is going to help a selection of folks, as they navigate this tricky process. It requires patience. It requires, stick-to-itiveness. A lot of the things that, of course, military folks understand very well, but don't get discouraged and use resources like Whitney and Recruit Military and My Computer Career to help you out, because that's what they're there for. So with that in mind, you provided so much great information. Why don't you tell folks what's going on, if there's anything that I've missed with what's going on with Recruit Military? Why should folks reach out to you, and where can they find more information?
Love those questions. So if you're looking for some more resume support or support in the employment process, interviewing, salary negotiation, recruitmilitary.com/resume webinars will take you to our landing page. We offer 6 different time opportunities every week for these different ones, every day from Monday through Thursday. Recruitmilitary.com to create that profile, access the job board, access our events calendar. Our next virtual one's coming up on June 18th, the Eastern Region Virtual Career Fair. And I do see a question in the chat too about, is AI a good tool to help with resume writing? And I do want to address that because that's incredibly important. Do I have a minute or two?
Absolutely. Good question. This character named Austin's out there watching. So yeah, absolutely.
Great question, Austin. It is a good tool, but it should not be the tool. And you shouldn't copy and paste, because I can tell right away if you copy it and paste it from ChatGPT, because there is a formula to how it will create your summary section, how it will create your bullet points. But you can use it for inspiration. I personally use it to get some ideas on better ways to word things. If I'm having issues with maybe verbs that I'm using, or how to connect those dots from action to result and make it more concise. So take, 4 sentences down to 2 lines. Use it. Use it as a resource, but don't use it as the resource.
That's a really good question, Austin. Thanks. I didn't think of it. And also, just so everybody knows, there is, as you might know, there are resources like AI Detector, where if you're hiring, you can plug that in and actually see how much of the resume was created using AI. And I'm guessing some people may, discontinue you based on that. I don't know that, but just so you know,
Good chance of that. They want you, not the AI tool.
Yeah, really well said. All right. I do know, I just wanted to say, because you guys do so many events, we are involved in an event, just so everyone knows, with Recruit Military. I believe it's July 26th in San Antonio. You're doing one of your career fairs, and we will be there. So we'll have a presence. So if anybody wants to stop by and you're in the area, we'd love to chat about what we offer. And obviously, it's a great time to stop by and see what Recruit Military is up to as well.
Everything's better in Texas.
Yeah. We'll leave it there, okay? Whitney, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing everything. And everybody, thank you, obviously, for joining us. If you have questions, go check them out. If you have questions, come check us out. This broadcast will live on all of our channels going forward. So come back in, watch it. And if it turns out you have some questions, send them our way, and we will try and answer them, or we will try and ask Whitney if she can answer those for us. So have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you here next week, same time, same place. And Whitney, if you don't mind hanging for just a second when we get finished here.
Sounds good. Right. Have a great day.
Thanks, folks.